Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another one of my compilation videos. With over 1,500 videos on YouTube, it can be hard to sift through all of my content. And my Dumbest Mistake series is probably one of my most favorite series that I've ever created on this channel. In fact, if there's a specific exercise that I haven't covered, be sure to comment that exercise down below and make sure you also give it a thumbs up, and I'll make that the next video in this series. Now, for those of you who are going to the gym and you're sticking to the basics, which I hope is the majority of you, this video is perfect because I'm going to go over tips for the barbell bench press, the deadlift, the squat, bent over row, T-bar row, and overhead press. And by the end, I guarantee that you're going to pull 1 or 2 tips per exercise that's going to help you maximize your gains in the gym. So without any further ado, let's jump right in, starting with the 8 dumbest mistakes for the barbell bench press. Hey, what's going on, nation? Today we're going to talk about the 8 dumbest mistakes people make that sabotage their chest growth when they bench. The first mistake I want to talk about is benching too high and not retracting your shoulder blades. And the reason why I'm combining these 2 mistakes into one is because a lot of the times one is the result of the other one. Now, what happens when you do the bench press and you don't retract your shoulder blades is you end up having a flat back. So I'm going to lay back real quick. When you have a flat back like this, it's going to change the entire range of motion of the barbell as you perform the movement. So, get this off the rack real quick. When your back is flat, what happens to most people is they start to bench over their shoulders like this. And they do it without even realizing it because it's going to feel like the natural range of motion. So going up, going down, you're benching over your shoulders. Now when you bench over your shoulders, now not only do you lose power when doing that, but you also run the risk of a shoulder injury and really damaging your rotator cuff. Now, if I stay in the same position, but I retract my shoulder blades like this, get a slight arch in my back, keep those shoulder blades retracted, I can bring the barbell down with the same movement pattern that I just did with my back flat, but as you can see, it's coming down over a totally different point. It's coming down over my chest on every single repetition. So because I'm coming now down over my chest, I'm taking my shoulders out of the equation, I'm bringing more triceps into the movement, and I'm able to fully target my chest on every single repetition. The second mistake people make is that they're actually bouncing the barbell off their chest at the bottom of the movement. Now I want to make it very clear here. We're talking about building muscle, not powerlifting or strength training, where you might see that being done because it's a part of that type of training. When you're trying to build muscle, you have to understand that you need to train in the full range of motion and you need to be in control the entire time, especially at the bottom portion, which is the sticking point, and where your chest is going to be in the most stretched position. In order to build muscle and to break down muscle tissue, you need to be able to get as much of a stretch and as much of a shortening as possible when doing the bench press. So, for example, now that you guys know you're supposed to retract your shoulder blades, when you get yourself into position, if you're bringing the barbell down and you let everything go loose here and you just bounce it up like this, you're missing that bottom portion like I said. So you're bouncing it up like that. You're completely disengaging your chest, disengaging your arms for a bit, and then you're hitting your chest with the bar, and that's what's getting you from here to here. Now, if you stay in control the entire time, keep everything nice and flexed, nice and tight, and you bring that barbell down, you control it, when you get to the bottom of the movement and you stop the bar on your chest and then press up, you're going to have to recruit a lot more muscle fiber to push that bar off your chest. And you're going to feel it instantly through your chest when you do that. So, if you guys are doing the bench press and you're trying to use this to build muscle, you want to make sure that you go all the way down, you hit that sticking point, and you push through. If you're powerlifting or strength training and you're trying to increase your 1 rep max, then it's okay to use techniques like that, but only if you've trained for them, because obviously you can seriously injure yourself if you do it wrong. The third mistake is something I like to call dancing feet. And we see this a lot in the gym. You'll see people doing the bench press, and then they're laying down and their feet are going all over the place, and they're going like this and moving around. What happens when you have dancing feet syndrome, we'll call it, is you're basically taking all of the tension out of your lower part of your body. So you're getting rid of all the tension you've created in your core, and you're getting rid of that driving force that starts from your feet. Now, there is a difference in how this relates to powerlifting versus focusing on building muscle. We'll get to that in a second. But if you're a power lifter especially, you need to have a solid stance on the ground, because what that's going to do is allow you, when you get back into position like this, when you arch your back and you drive your hips into the bench, when you get to the bottom of the movement with the barbell, you're not just bringing it down with your arms and then pressing it back up with your arms. You're bringing it down, but you're actually driving through your feet and then driving your hips while you keep your core tight, and you're using this entire motion to press as much weight as possible. So the bench press starts from your feet when you're trying to lift as much weight as you can. Now, when it comes to building muscle, the primary focus isn't lifting as much weight as possible. However, you can obviously still choose to keep your feet on the ground, but you have to keep in mind that if your feet are on the ground and you're trying to use the bench press, as soon as you get into position, you get your glutes on the bench, your back is arched, your shoulders are retracted. If you're bringing the bar down and you start dancing your feet, you just lost all of that extra power that you were generating with your legs and your core, so your entire lower body. So you're going to feel like you're weaker on that exercise, but all that really happened is you lost that core engagement, which was helping you drive the bar up harder so you can focus more on lifting weight. Now, if you're trying to build muscle, a lot of people actually purposely take their feet out of the equation. They'll either bring their feet to the bench like this, or they'll keep them in the air like that. And the reason why they do this is because they're purposely taking everything out of the equation except their upper body, so they can primarily focus on just targeting the chest. So this is 100% okay to do. You probably won't be able to lift as much doing it that way because you don't have that extra driving force, but you mentally set yourself up knowing that you're taking your legs out of the equation, as opposed to having dancing feet and then wondering why you're weak, okay? So there is a clear difference. There is a place for having your feet on the ground. There's a place for having your feet in the air. Just make sure you know which one you're doing, and don't do the dancing feet in between. The fourth mistake I want to talk about is doing half reps. Now, half reps can be either skipping the lower portion of the movement or skipping the lockout portion of the movement. And a lot of people say, well, I'm keeping constant tension on my muscle by doing half reps in the middle. Yeah, I mean, you are keeping tension on the muscle, but you're out of your mind if you think there's no tension on your chest at the top or the bottom portion of the movement as well. I'm pretty sure you can't hold the bar for 20 minutes at the top or at the bottom and not feel your chest get activated, okay? There's tension on your chest the entire time you're doing the exercise. However, what you need to keep in mind is if you're training only in that middle area, your body is always going to be weakest in the areas you don't train. So for example, if you're skipping the sticking portion of the movement, which is the bottom portion, you guys will see a lot of people bring the barbell down to here and then they'll stop. You will always be weakest from here to here. And here to here is actually helping you stretch your chest out more so you can break down more muscle fiber. Remember, to really fully activate and get as much muscle damage as possible, you need to fully stretch your chest and fully shorten it in order to get the most amount of contraction. So with that being said, if you're doing half reps and you're doing bullshit like this, and this is your set, number one, you've skipped the sticking point. Number two, you're not even shortening your chest as much as you can because you're not going all the way to the top. And what that's also going to lead to is you having a weaker lockout if you decide to go into more power training or strength training because your body has not trained in that area of where you actually lock it out each repetition. And I do want to add one more thing to this too, and it has to do with injuries. Now, like I mentioned, any range of motion that you don't train in is usually where you have weakness. So I want you to think about this. If you start training with half reps, okay, and you're only going down to like a few inches above your chest, so let's say for the next 6 months, You start out with like 135 pounds, okay? You just started out, you're not that strong, and you only go down to here, and then you push back up to here. And you get yourself strong enough to be able to do like 235 for a set of 5 reps, going from here to here. That one day when you decide to go all the way down to your chest with 235 and then all the way back up, that will probably be the day that you injure yourself, whether it's you pull a chest, you tear a tendon, or you hurt your shoulders. Reason being is because your body has never felt what it was like to handle any sort of weight in that bottom range of motion. So keep that in mind when you're training in the gym. The 5th mistake people make is they grab the barbell too wide. Now, you will read magazines and you will read articles that say grab the barbell wider to have a stronger chest press. And that's true, because what's happening is the wider you grab the barbell, the shorter range of motion the bar has to travel to complete one repetition. But that's only going to work for you if your goal is to lift as much weight as possible. If you're trying to build muscle, you don't want to do this, because what you're actually doing is you're transferring not only a lot of the weight from the exercise to surrounding areas like your shoulders, for example, but you're also decreasing the amount that you're stretching and shortening your chest throughout the movement. And I want to show you guys with an example. Remember, shortening and stretching the chest, that's how you get muscle damage, that's how you build muscle. So if you guys were to get a really wide grip on the barbell and perform your repetitions, check it out. There's barely any shortening happening at the top of the movement. You don't even see my chest come up that much, okay? Because I'm basically just staying in the lower portion of the stretched part of my chest the entire time. Now, if I were to get a regular grip and do the bench press, do a bit of a narrow grip, you guys are going to see at the top, even right now, that my chest is pumped up. I'm going to go all the way down, my chest is stretched, go all the way to the top. You see a clear change in my chest and how pumped up it's getting. That's because I'm shortening the muscle. Now, if I were to spread my arms out, you're going to see my chest deflate, because it's not in that top part of the shortening portion of the movement anymore. So this is the difference. You're not getting the full contraction because you're not getting as much of a shortening of the muscle when you go up from the bottom position. So key thing here, guys, remember what you're trying to do. If you're going to the gym to be a power lifter, yeah, use a wide grip. If you're going to build muscle, wide grip's not going to help you too much. The 6th mistake is letting your spotter do all the work for you on your repetitions. Now, if you're walking around telling everybody you have a 315-pound bench press, but your spotter's not around to help you when you're asked to prove it, shit's going to hit the fan pretty quick, and you're going to realize just how weak you are. On top of that, your spotter is actually doing something to you that you might not realize. They're stealing your gains away from you. If your spotter comes in when you get stuck, and every single time they just pull the bar up for you like this, and it's pretty clear, you guys have seen this happen in the gym, you see the spotters who give a little too much help. What they're really doing is they're taking away your ability to increase your mind-muscle connection and really focus on that muscle damage in the eccentric and the concentric portion of the movement. A lot of the times when people start to get really tired, the spotter will actually kind of hold it for them on the way down and then start the process on the way up. Now, there is a right and wrong way to spot someone. What I typically like to do to people is I like the fingertip spot, depending on how many reps they're going for. Obviously, if it's a lot of weight, I want to get a better grip than a fingertip, but if they're doing like 8 to 10 repetitions and you start to get tired by the time you get to 7 or 8, 9 times out of 10, you can just step in and kind of fingertip the bar and help them through the movement. But you help only enough so that the bar stays moving. You don't get in there and do it for them and they follow you on the way up. You're following them. So they're still able to really focus on getting that mind-muscle connection. They're really focusing on that chest contraction. And as they're pressing the bar, there's still a ton of tension in their chest because the barbell is still resting in their hands as opposed to resting in yours because you're pulling it really fast. So if your spot is doing this to you, and you might not have realized this until now, just have a little talk and be like, hey, bro, take a step back, only come in when I say, and when you do, you only allowed the fingertip the bar. Oh, it looks weird. Only allowed the fingertip the bar until I tell you otherwise. The seventh mistake people make is that they forget to train their lats just as hard as they're training their chest. Now, you might not realize this, but your lats do play a pretty big role in how strong your bench press is going to be, especially at the sticking point of the movement, which is the bottom position. Believe it or not, at the bottom position, so the sticking point, when you're on your back and your bar is resting on your chest, your lats are going to greatly help you produce the pushing power that you need to get from here to here. And as you start to fully extend your arms, your lats become less engaged, but a lot of us get stuck at the bottom portion of the movement. So if you're trying to increase your overall lift, whether you're going for a PR or you're trying to get more weight for your 8 to 10 repetitions, if you get your back stronger, you'll find out quickly that you're not getting stuck as much at the bottom of the movement. You're able to get to the bottom and press through and have smoother reps with heavier weight. Now, another way that your lats actually help out is they produce internal rotation, so they help your arms do this. And what that basically does when you're benching is it helps you flare your elbows out as you do the movement. So this is more of an advanced technique when benching heavy, but you can get more power out of the movement by starting to flare your elbows once you reach the bottom. So your elbows are tucked in, you get to the bottom, as you press up, you're going to flare your elbows out a bit to drive more power into the bar. Because what that's allowing you to do when you flare your elbows is it's allowing you to bring a bit more triceps into the movement as well. Now, the eighth and final mistake actually has to do with what we just talked about, which is flared elbows. And this even relates to the first mistake that we talked about as well. When you do the bench press, you do not want to have your elbows flared the entire time. Even if your shoulder blades are retracted and pulled down, you have a slight arch in your back, if you flare your elbows and then go down like this, you guys can see as I'm sitting here, this is proper bench press form. If you flare your elbows and come down, you start benching over your shoulders. And if you don't already have a rotator cuff issue, you can certainly get one. And if you've had one in the past, if you've had a shoulder injury in the past, you're going to aggravate it on every single repetition. The only time that you're allowed to flare your elbows is on the way up. Once you get back to the top portion of the movement, you're going to tuck your arms back in and come down, and then again, only flare them to help you drive the barbell up. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to ask another question in the comment section. Because we're talking about the bench press, you're going to ask, what's better for building muscle? Using the barbell or using the dumbbells? Don't worry, I have you covered. I'll post a link to this video down in the info section below comparing the dumbbell bench press versus the barbell bench press to answer any question you might have. So which of those mistakes do you guys notice the most in your gym? For me, it's the dancing feet. Guys, when you're trying to do a bench press, if you want to lift as heavy as you can, it starts with a solid foundation. And that means feet flat on the ground, okay? So make sure you really pay attention to that one. Next exercise on our list is going to be the 7 dumbest mistakes for the barbell bent over row. Let's check it out. What's going on, nation? Today we're going to be discussing the 7 dumbest mistakes when performing the barbell bent over row that's sabotaging your back gains. Now, the barbell bent over row is like the barbell bench press for your back. In this exercise, we're going to be targeting your upper back, and we're going to be focusing on the overhand version. And it's because we're focusing on the overhand version that we're targeting more of the upper back muscles, like your traps, rhomboids, and rear delts. Now, we will be activating lats doing this exercise as well, but the primary focus here is going to be mid and lower traps, which is great because these are muscle groups that are often neglected in workouts. Another great thing about this exercise is that because we're targeting the upper back, we're basically counterbalancing what the barbell bench press does for your chest and shoulders. And another great thing is that we're going to be helping your posture as well. When we're walking around with rolled shoulders like this, we're going to strengthen that upper back, everything's pulled back nice and tight like this, and we're going to be improving your posture. And one more benefit is that we're also going to be getting a lot of core and lower body activation. Now, the exercise might be bending over and pulling like this, But if you're pulling a substantial amount of weight, number one, you got to engage your core as hard as possible in order to keep yourself from going into flexion. And number two, in order to hold this weight, you're going to have to engage the muscles in your lower body like your glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves for stability as well. But before we get started, if you guys haven't turned on video notifications yet, make sure you do so you never miss another video upload. And if you want to see the rest of the videos in my Dumbest Mistakes series, I'll post a link down in the info section below. Alright guys, so mistake number one is having straight legs during the lift. And before I show you guys what this means, real quick, when approaching the barbell to perform this movement, I want you guys to grab it just outside of shoulder width apart. In fact, because like I said, this is like counterbalancing what the bench press does for your chest and shoulders, it might even be worth your while to use the same width grip that you use on the barbell bench press when grabbing the bar. So I'm going to get my outside shoulder width grip on here. I'm going to take a step back just like this. And now, as far as foot position on this exercise, guys, you can stand with your feet about shoulder width apart. You can go a little bit outside of shoulder width, or you can do what I like to do, which is a bit wider stance like this, so that as I perform the movement, I can sit between my legs and have more stability, especially as I start lifting heavier weight. Now, what's going to happen if you have straight legs during this exercise is it's going to completely throw off your center of balance, and it's going to bring all of the weight and transfer it to your lower back, causing you to go into lumbar spinal flexion, which can cause a serious injury. And what I mean by that is, if you keep your legs straight and just bend over like this, the point at which you're bending is all right here. So everything, all this weight is being held in the air by your lower back. And your lower back isn't going to be able to handle 225, 255, or 315 pounds for a set of 8 to 10 repetitions. So what happens when your legs are straight and you bend over like this, you're going to go into spinal flexion and you're going to hurt yourself. But if you sit between your legs and you arch your back a bit, you can see just from this movement, I can stay in the exact same position. Straight legs, I'm in flexion. If I just bend my knees and lower my hips and sit back, it's like my back just fixes itself just from doing that one movement. So mistake number one, straight legs. Don't do it. Mistake number two is not bending over enough when you do this exercise. Like I said in the intro, guys, this movement, yeah, we're going to be hitting a bit of our lats, we're hitting our traps and rhomboids, but we want to primarily utilize this movement to make sure we're targeting the mid to lower traps, because not too many exercises target this area, and we don't want to be neglecting that. We can do a lot of exercises that target the upper traps, but the mid to lower, we're kind of limited. So when you perform this movement, guys, you're going to get into position, but if you're only bending over like this and pulling the barbell up, you're activating mostly upper traps when you do this. Now, the reason why most people do that range of motion is because they can lift more weight. So it's more like ego lifting. And your ego isn't going to do shit for your mid to lower traps. What you need to do is lower the weight, bend over pretty much parallel to the floor, and then pull. And you guys are going to see I'm getting a lot more mid to lower trap engagement, and I'm pulling the barbell pretty much to my sternum. You can go between your belly button and sternum, whatever feels more comfortable for you. Just make sure you're getting that mid to lower trap engagement, and make sure you're feeling it on every single repetition. Mistake number three is that you guys are standing up while performing your repetitions. And this can happen for one of two reasons. The most common reason is because you're lifting weight that is way too heavy and you're using momentum. So you start off like this, bent over like you should be, and then you use momentum to bring the bar up, and you're just doing this. And everyone's looking at you and they're laughing because they don't know what you're doing, besides not actually training your muscles properly. Now, the second reason why you might be doing this is because you're just starting to fatigue, and like I said earlier, it's easier to pull from here to here with more weight than it is totally bent over and parallel to the floor and pull here to here. So you guys might be doing proper range of motion for the first 3 or 4 repetitions, and as you fatigue, you might be trying to compensate by slowly standing up so you can keep pulling the same weight. But before you know it, the set's over and you're almost standing up completely, almost standing straight up, where you started down here and you end right here. So if you notice that's happening to you, what you need to do is just adjust for your rep range. The whole point of this is to target the mid to lower traps, and if the weight's too heavy, just put it back, lower it, and then make sure you can do all of your reps with the proper form for the rep range you're trying to target. It's that easy, guys. Mistake number 4 is that you're putting too much tension in your neck and spine. And the reason why this happens to most people is because, let's just face it, we like to look in the mirror and we like to see all the muscles moving, and we like to see how big we look and how pumped we look. But when doing an exercise like this, it's not necessarily the best thing for you to do. When performing this movement, guys, you want to have a neutral spine. So you want to have your face facing the floor and pull like this. If you're lifting a lot of weight and you're forcing your head back like this and pulling, and you're doing this just so you can look in the mirror, I mean, even without weight, just using the barbell and forcing my head up like this, you're creating all kinds of tension in your neck and spine and all kinds of tension in this area where you can easily pull a muscle, especially in your neck, and that doesn't feel too good. So when you do this exercise, focus on the movement. Keep a neutral spine, and the less pressure and the less things you're worrying about up here, the more energy you can drive into the actual movement, and the more weight you're going to lift, which is going to help your gains. Mistake number 5 is that you're not keeping your chest up throughout the movement. Now that might sound weird to you guys because you're bent over like this and you're staying parallel to the floor, but you still want to keep your chest up. By keeping your chest up, that's going to allow you guys to avoid going into lumbar spinal flexion. Now, as you're doing the movement, you're pulling the barbell to your sternum like this, keeping your chest up. If the weight's too heavy and you start crumbling, see how I go into flexion right here? That's taking a lot of this pressure and putting it directly on your back, and it's going to transfer to your lower back and can possibly cause a lower back injury. So if you notice that throughout the movement, you're not able to keep your chest up like this as you perform your repetitions, then chances are you're going too heavy. And if you don't want to risk a lumbar spine injury, lighten the load and do your reps in proper form. Mistake number 6 is that you're not properly engaging your core throughout the lift. Now, obviously, depending on how much weight you're using is going to change how you guys engage your core. So, for example, if I'm doing lighter weight and more repetitions, engaging my core is important, but I can get away with maybe not engaging it as much or as tight because the weight's lighter and it's not going to pull me forward. But when you start doing your really heavy sets, focusing on that core engagement and keeping this area as tight as possible is going to make all the difference. It's going to make the weight feel, heavy weight's still going to be heavy, but the weight's going to feel a lot heavier if you're crumbling at the core as you're trying to do the repetition. So what I mean by this is when you get into place and you bend over and you're lifting heavy weight, you want to take in a breath at the bottom of the movement. And as you take in your breath, that's when you're going to engage your core. You're going to keep all the air inside, squeeze your abs as tight as you can, pull up, come back down, and then that's when you reset your breath. Take in a breath, keep it nice and tight, boom, come back down. Now what a lot of people do is they breathe out as they bring the weight up. So if you're lifting a lot of weight and your core's nice and tight right here, and you breathe out as you lift the bar, so you're breathing all of the internal pressure that's keeping you from falling over and going into spinal flexion. So if you guys want to lift heavy and not have to worry about spinal flexion and hurting your lower back, take in that breath, keep your core tight, and don't release it until you get back to the bottom. Now, if you have a hard time with this internal pressure, I'll post a link to a few videos down in the info section below that'll show you guys how to engage your core properly. All right, guys, and the 7th mistake people make is probably the one you want to pay the most attention to. We're saving the best for last here. And this has a lot to do with mind-muscle connection. So if you're a beginner, you need to listen up and really pay attention. Now, this exercise, okay, when you perform this movement, you do not want to be focusing on grabbing the barbell and pulling with your hands. And it might sound weird to you, but you have to really keep this in mind. What you want to do is you want to focus on pulling with your elbows. Think of your hands as just hooks that are holding the weight, and you want to try to pull from here. By pulling at your elbow, it's going to disengage a lot of your biceps that normally you would be activating. Of course, you're still going to be using your biceps to perform the movement, but if you want to learn how to use more of the muscles in your back, you have to visualize pulling from the elbows in order to bring that barbell to your chest. Now, another big part of this movement is you have to make sure that you're getting scapular retraction, or else the exercise is useless. And that's a lot of the times when I tell you guys don't use momentum, especially on exercises like this, is because you won't really get that scapular retraction and you won't get that muscle activation that you're looking for, and there's the whole reason why you're doing this exercise. And what I mean by that is, once you are bent over like this and you have the barbell in your hands, try doing this as like a two-part movement before you start lifting heavy. Just use the barbell to practice this before you guys start getting really heavy with this exercise. And what I want you to do is a two-part movement where you retract your scapula first, and then as soon as you squeeze and retract your scapula as much as you can, then pull with your elbows and bring it to your sternum. And then repeat that the opposite way to bring it back down. So get a nice dip just like this. Keep your chest up, proper form. Retract with your scapula, and then pull the barbell to your chest. And as you get better and better at it, you'll be able to do it in a fluid motion and still get that scapular retraction with heavier weight. So if you have a hard time with mind muscle connection, this is the perfect time to practice it. Use lightweight, get the form down, and don't make these crucial mistakes because your gain will suffer. You know, the biggest takeaway I hope you guys get from that video is that when you do a barbell bent over row, you're not just bending over, you're actually sitting back so that the weight is resting on your hips. If you're feeling that exercise in your lower back, that's mistake number one that you need to address, all right? Now, for the next exercise, we're gonna go into a barbell squat. And there's quite a few things that can go wrong here that can both screw up your form and possibly cause an injury. So make sure you really pay attention to these mistakes. What's going on, nation? Today we're going to talk about the 5 dumbest mistakes sabotaging your leg growth. And if you missed the last video I did where I talked about the 8 dumbest mistakes sabotaging your chest growth, I'll post a link to that down in the info section below. And I'll also include a link to a video I did where I compared the front squat to the back squat. And before we get started, if you haven't turned on notifications yet to make sure you get notified as soon as I upload a new video, make sure you do that right now. Now let's take a look at these 5 mistakes. Mistake number 1 is that you're doing no stretching or mobility work before you start squatting. And you should also be doing this throughout the week as well to improve your overall flexibility. What we want to do with you guys is start from the top and work our way down. So we're going to start with the shoulders. If you have really tight shoulders, it's going to severely impact your form when doing a squat. And I'll explain to you why. I'll put my hands on this barbell right here and get into my squat position. So the barbell should be resting across your traps. Now, if you have really tight shoulders, chances are you're already starting to feel a little pain just from holding the barbell in this position. And we don't even have any weight on the bar yet, and we haven't started descending. Now, what happens when you have tight shoulders, and you'll see this a lot in the gym, and you might be doing this right now and you don't even realize it yet, is that as you descend, instead of descending down with your chest up and then coming back to the top of the movement, what's happening is because your shoulders are so tight, as you squat, you're actually pushing the barbell into your neck. And then you start lifting your head up like this, and now all that weight is resting on your neck, and that's also forcing you to lean forward. And now not only is your squat form jacked up, but you're also pushing more through your toes to perform the movement, which is obviously going to be much weaker than pushing through your heels, let alone cause some knee pain as well. So if you have really tight shoulders and you're forcing the barbell into your neck, you run the risk of compressing discs in your neck and pinching nerves and causing a wide variety of problems. So what I want you guys to do is take a look at this video that I'm going to link to right here and practice these dynamic warm-ups before you start squatting and also throughout the week. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite ones to do is shoulder breakers. And you guys want to make sure you're doing dynamic warm-ups, not static stretching. To perform a shoulder breaker, all you need is a resistance band. You can keep this in your gym bag. You can do this at home or at the gym, doesn't matter. I would do it as soon as you wake up. And what you're going to do is create resistance by pulling on the band, go up and over like this, touch your butt, up and over, touch your thighs. And just do like 2 sets of 10 to 12 reps, up and over, and you're going to loosen your shoulders up. And if you do this for a while, they'll start getting really loose, and you shouldn't feel any shoulder pain. Now moving down to the hips. If you have tight hips, obviously it's going to severely impact your form because you're not going to be able to fully descend properly. And a quick tip for you guys with that is, you can do air squats to warm up like this, but chances are if you have really tight hips, when you're doing your air squats, you're probably still not having the best form when you do them. So what I want you to do to work on some hip mobility is do air squats, but do it next to a pole. That way you can actually control yourself as you go down and control yourself as you go up. Because if you're standing this close to the pole and keeping your chest up, it's forcing you to stay in that perfect squat position as you do the movement. And as you practice these things, you'll get better and better with your flexibility and mobility, and it's going to make your squatting much easier. The second mistake is that you stop in at 90 degrees. If you guys are trying to build muscle, you want to make sure you're going as low as possible in every single repetition when squatting. This is because the lower you go, the more you're going to recruit your glutes and hamstrings into the exercise. And if your goal is bodybuilding, then your goal is to build as much muscle as possible. So you want to get as much muscle fiber activation as possible on your repetitions. Now there is a difference between powerlifting and bodybuilding. Powerlifters stop just below 90 degrees. All they have to do when they compete is get below 90 so the hip bone passes their knees and then go back up. And that's fine because they're training for powerlifting. If your goal is bodybuilding and you're trying to build or increase the overall growth of all the muscles in your lower body, so your glutes, quads, and hamstrings, then you need to make sure that you're going ass to grass and then coming all the way back up on every single repetition. Now, we'll also say that if you're going ass to grass, that also places you in a bit of a better position to get your hips underneath the barbell to push back up through your heels. There is a benefit to going that low. And again, guys, if you're having a hard time with hip mobility, just make sure you're doing those stretches that I mentioned before. Mistake number 3 is that you're pushing through your toes to complete the movement. You guys should be pushing more through the middle of your foot during each repetition in order to complete your reps. And even though you might have good shoulder mobility and hip mobility to squat properly, there could be a few other things that are holding you back, and we'll talk about those right now. The first thing is you're not braking at your hips and knees fluidly as you perform the movement. You should be bending at your hips and knees at the same time as you descend and then come back to the top. So hips go back as your knees break, all the way down, all the way up. Now, if you're braking at your knees first, and what I mean by that is it's like you're basically kind of squatting forward and then sitting. You can see my heels are coming off the ground. Same thing if you break at the hips first. So you have a slight bend in your knees, and then you break at the hips. And now what's happening is as you break at the hips and you're leaning forward, all that weight in your shoulders is going to push you forward like this. And then you're going to come down and push through your toes. So make sure that you're braking fluidly at your knees and hips. Practice with no weight first. The second thing that might be happening is you're having valgus knee collapse throughout the movement. That's when your knees collapse in, either on the way down or on the way up. And if this is happening to you and you're noticing it in the mirror, you have to stop and fix this problem right away because it's number one cause for an ACL tear. An easy way to fix this might be just take your form. You might have a bit of a narrow stance. Either get a bit wider with your stance or turn your toes out slightly just like this. That way when you squat, your knees will follow your toes on the way down and on the way up, and then just mentally focus on pushing your knees out as you go down and keep pushing them out as you go back up. Mistake number 4 is that you guys are breathing during the rep. As soon as you start to breathe during the rep, you lose all core stability, and it's going to cause you to collapse and get a lot of flexion in your spine. And what I mean by that is you're going to take your breath, and as you come down, if you breathe out, you're losing all that internal pressure, and it's causing you to lean forward, and if you have weight on your back, it's going to cause you to basically collapse like this. You need to keep a tight core and keep that pressure in there in order to be able to squat with heavy weight and maintain your proper form. So the way you do this is you take in a deep breath at the top, keep your core nice and tight, flex your abs, and then hold that breath as you go down. Keep your chest up as you go up, and then don't breathe out until you get to the top of the movement. Now, this also still applies if you're using a weightlifting belt. And I'll link you guys to a video that shows you an in-depth review on how to use one of these. But really quick, when you put your belt on, number one, you should be putting your belt on and tightening it before your set starts. If you do your entire workout and never adjust your belt, then your belt is way too loose and it's doing nothing for you. That's why I use the Inza belt, because it has this lever right here. Before my set begins, I get it nice and tight, take in a breath, and then I flex my core and push into the belt at the same time, and this keeps my core nice and strong when I'm lifting heavier weights. So if you're not breathing right, make sure you start breathing correctly now. The fifth and final mistake is that you're not resting enough between your sets. If you're only taking like a 45-second to 60-second rest period in between your sets, and you're trying to lift heavy, at the end of the day, guys, your body has just not recovered enough from the previous set to not only perform better and lift more, but the quality of your reps are probably going to be less because you're not well rested. If you want to make sure you're getting quality reps and able to work with progressive overload and add weight each set, you need to rest at least 2 to 3 minutes in between your sets. Now, if you're going for a 1 rep max, you can rest a little longer, like 3 to 5 minutes. But if you start wandering around the gym in between sets, and you start talking to people, and you're resting like 15 minutes, 20 minutes between your sets, what's going to happen is your body's going to start to get tight, and when you get back to squatting, you run a higher risk of injuring yourself. So don't rest too long, but don't rest too short either. All right, guys, so those are my 5 dumbest mistakes people make when squatting. If you have any suggestions for a future video you'd like to see some mistakes on, be sure to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys. You know, simple tips like not breathing out as you descend on a squat might sound kind of silly to say out loud, but a couple weeks ago, I overheard a trainer at the gym I go to tell their client to breathe out on the way down. These are still things that, for whatever reason, are circulating in the fitness industry, and we need to make sure that we pay attention because you can get really hurt if you're breathing out on the way down on a squat and your body's crumpling like an accordion because you can't maintain a solid core. So really take these tips to heart and share them with friends that might be going to the gym that don't have the proper guidance. Now for the next exercise, we're going to be going over the dumbest mistakes for an overhead press. But before we jump in, if you guys are in need of a new workout program to go to the gym and train with, whether you can train twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, I have the perfect program for you on my website, muscularstrength.com. Whether it's push-pull legs, upper-lower split, or 5-day bodybuilding split, it's all there. And you can try every program for free for 1 week as soon as you sign up. So check that out. And now let's jump into the overhead press. What's going on, nation? Today we're going to go over the 6 dumbest mistakes people make on the overhead press. And if you missed my last video in this series, which was 8 dumbest deadlift mistakes sabotaging your gains, I'll put a link down in the info section below. Now, the overhead press is an exercise that should be a staple in any shoulder routine because it targets all 3 heads of your deltoids, the anterior, middle, and posterior. And another major benefit of this exercise is that it will help you build a stronger core as well. But before we get started, if you're looking to switch up your routine, or if you're looking for a new program in general, check out my 12-week challenge and see if you can handle my epic push-pull legs program or my max muscle bodybuilding split program. Results are guaranteed, and you can even download my app for instant access to all the routines in each program right from your phone. The first mistake is improper hand placement when performing the exercise. You guys have to understand that if you want to lift as much weight as possible and really focus on your shoulders, you want to create a straight path for the barbell to travel. And the problem is, if you grab with your hands too close, not only when you come down will your hands be hitting your chest and shoulders, but when you push up, it's almost like you're pushing in as you lift the weight. And if you go too wide with the movement, every time you come down to here, your elbows are going to be tucked like this, and when you try to press up, it's almost like you're pressing out and away. To get the most amount of force against this barbell, in order to lift the most amount of weight, you got to utilize proper form and get your hands just about outside of shoulder width apart, so that when you come under the barbell like this, it's a straight push over your head, and back down. Mistake number 2 is having zero core control. You guys have to make sure that you're taking in a breath before you start each repetition in order to keep your core as like one solid piece. What happens is a lot of people will go throughout their repetitions not taking in a breath and not holding it during the press, and what happens is the core deflates, and it can deflate forward or it can deflate backward. So let me get my PVC pipe right here. So what's going to happen if you deflate forward, so basically you're getting ready to press the weight over your head, you don't take in a breath, so your core is very floppy right now. As you press up and you bend forward, you can actually go into flexion like this, not only drop the weight and fall forward, but you can go into flexion like that and put a lot of pressure on your lower back. But that's not really the most common thing that happens. The most common mistake people make when they have zero core control is they actually lean back. So what you'll see is they'll be ready for the press, and as soon as they press, they start doing this. And then as the bar comes down, the press starts to look like that. Not only does that take posterior deltoids out of the movement and start to bring in more upper chest, but you're putting a lot of pressure on your lumbar spine, going into extreme spinal extension, which can cause a serious lower back injury. Mistake number 3 is not pressing the barbell vertically. And this is going to relate to mistake number 2, but even when you have proper core control, you'll still find people that tend to lean forward a bit and still tend to lean back a bit, and it really throws off the exercise. So you'll see people that actually press the barbell straight forward like this, and when that happens, obviously it can throw you off balance and bring you forward, and you'll still see people that even when they have a nice, tight, solid core, they'll start to lean back like this and press the barbell. Even though they're pressing it straight up, they've changed the angle by leaning back, once again bringing in more upper chest and taking out posterior deltoids. And people do that simply because it's a lot easier to press more weight when you're leaning back. If you guys want to maximize the benefits of this exercise, you have to stand up straight, keep that core nice and tight, and press the barbell straight vertically overhead like this, and come back down within the same movement pattern. The 4th mistake people make is that they don't train with proper range of motion. And I've seen this done 2 different ways. It's like people can't make up their mind on how they want to screw this exercise up. You'll either see the guys that like to start here and go to here, and then you'll see the guys that like to start here and go to here. And these reps look like this, and these reps just look like this. If you guys want to maximize the benefits of the exercise, you have to train in full range of motion. And if for any reason you can't bring the barbell all the way down to your chest, then that should be an indication that you have some mobility work that needs to be done on your shoulders, which is going to be super important because that's going to transfer into a lot of other exercises. I don't like it when people say, I can't bring the barbell all the way down, when I know they can, they just don't want to lower the weight. And think about it like this. If you always train in this range of motion here, you're always going to be weak from here to here. And this is where you're going to get the injury, is in this range. Not the one you train in, you'll be fine there. But that injury will always happen in that lower half because you've never trained your body with heavy weights in that lower range. And the other part to this, guys, make sure that when you get to the top of the movement, you're not only locking out your elbows, but you're also pushing your head through. That completes the repetition. Then bring it back down, and then back up and push through with your head on every single rep. The 5th mistake people make is they don't control the negative. And you guys should know by now that you break down the most muscle tissue in the eccentric portion of any exercise that you do, which for this exercise is going to be after you press it up, the negative or eccentric portion is going to be on the way down. And you want to control it as much as possible so you get the most muscle fiber breakdown for regrowth. And what happens, guys, is I'm sure a lot of you might start off your set and you're controlling that negative no problem, but as you start to fatigue and you're trying to complete all your repetitions, you might press the barbell up and then just let it drop to your chest to save energy so you can get some more reps out. You're much better off just lowering the weight and getting that slow negative. And if you want to take your workout to the next level and really get some muscle growth in your shoulders, try doing your presses like this. Press straight up over your head and then do a 2 to 3 second negative on every single repetition. It'll be a workout like you've never experienced in your life. And the 6th and final mistake most people make when doing this exercise is they actually turn the overhead press into a push press. And I'll show you guys the difference right now. When performing an overhead press, all you're going to do is stand here, keep your core nice and tight, and then press the weight over your head, and then bring it back down to your chest, and repeat this for repetitions. Now, a push press is when you bend the knees like this, and then you use your lower body to help you thrust the weight into the air. And then you bring it back down, reset, and thrust the weight into the air again. So they're two completely different exercises. Granted, the movement pattern is the same, but the major difference is on the push press, you guys are using momentum to complete your repetitions. It's more of a strength building exercise. So don't make that mistake, and if you start doing this, it's a good indication that you need to lower the weight to perform the movement properly. Now, before I let you guys go, I do want to share with you a quick bonus tip. I know I just said that you don't want to make the mistake of turning the overhead press into a push press, but if you find yourself hitting a plateau with your training, it is a good idea to swap out the overhead press for the push press for a few weeks. This is because the push press will allow you to place a much heavier load on your shoulders, and you can utilize the momentum involved to lift more weight over your head and then focus on that controlled negative. So that wraps up today's video, guys. If you've missed any of my other dumbest mistake videos, I'll post a link to the entire playlist down in the info section below. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on video notifications so you never miss a new video upload. And if you want to incorporate the overhead press into your next shoulder routine, here are some quick guidelines to follow. Number one, because this is a compound movement, make sure you start your routine with it to maximize its benefits. For muscle gain, perform 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions, resting only 60 to 90 seconds between your sets. And the third tip, guys, if you find yourself hitting a plateau with this movement, switch it out for the push press for 3 to 4 weeks to help increase your strength. I want you guys to utilize a reverse pyramid rep range per set to make sure that you're adding more weight each time. So what I mean by this is, set 1 would be 10 reps, then you would add weight and do set 2 of 8 reps only, add some more weight, set 3 will be 6 reps, and then for the 4th and final set, add as much weight as you can and try to get at least 3 repetitions. I hope you guys learned a lot, and as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys. You know, I don't really notice too many people at the gym that I go to doing the overhead press wrong, per se. But for whatever reason, people are afraid to press up and push through the movement, right? So like you push your head through your arms at the top. I'm not sure why, but that's the main reason why you might see people overhead pressing and pressing the bar out away from them versus over their head and through. So like, don't feel like your shoulders are gonna get wrecked or you're gonna cause an injury just because you push through at the top. Maybe it's just a fear that people have, but I would say out of all of the mistakes, that's the one that I noticed the most with that movement. Now, when it comes to the deadlift, there's a whole lot of things that can go wrong with this exercise, but it's actually one of my favorite compound movements to teach, and I guarantee you after watching this next video on the dumbest deadlift mistakes, you're all gonna have much more improved deadlift form the next time you go to the gym. What's going on, nation? I got some exciting news for you guys. I've finally launched my app for my website, muscularstrength.com. You can check it out now in the Google Play Store. Right now, we're only available for Android, but we will have that iPhone version out within the next probably 4 to 5 weeks, hopefully, fingers crossed. But so far, the reviews have been great, and for those of you guys who are members of the site right now, it makes me so happy to see you guys enjoying it and using it. I told you it was coming. It's finally here. Now you can access all our articles, workout routines, recipes, our forums, and basically interact with each other in a much easier way because it's all right here in this platform. And for those of you guys who use my meal plan system, all that's integrated into the app as well. So if you're out to eat, you want to make sure you're hitting your macros for the day, boom, click right here, meal plan loads up. So it's super sick. I love it. I got more updates coming this week and next week too. So if you download the app, be sure to watch out for those. But yeah, I'm really excited. But I'm going to move on or else I'll talk about this thing all day. For today's video, we're going to be talking about 8 dumbest mistakes people make when they do the barbell deadlift. Now, before we get started, if you missed the last episode in this series, we talked about the dumbest mistakes for bent over rows. make sure you check out that video. And if you guys have any questions about the differences between conventional deadlifts and sumo deadlifts, I'm also going to link to this video I did in my Versus series comparing the two exercises, and I'll put all these links as well as the app link down in the info section below this video so that as I go over the conventional and sumo during these dumbest mistakes, you guys don't get confused, and if you do, just watch that video right there. So, that being said, be sure to turn on those video notifications if you haven't already, and let's get started. Alright guys, so the first mistake people make is that they think the deadlift is a back exercise. And if you think this is a back exercise, you're automatically setting yourself up for failure when you go perform the movement, because if you're pulling with your back, that's how you're going to blow out your lumbar spine or your lower back. It's actually a movement that's performed by pushing through your legs and hips to bring the barbell to the top position. So now you might be asking yourself, well, why do people do deadlifts on back day? Well, at the end of the day when doing the exercise, you are going to flex your back once you're in the down position to help with stability. But the reason why most people, myself included, do deadlifts on back day is because if I was to do chest, I'd be doing my heavy bench press on chest day. If I was to do legs, I would do my heavy squats. If I was to do shoulders, I'd do my heavy overhead presses. So it makes sense to do deadlifts on back day because you have other big movements that you're probably going to be doing throughout your workout that need to be on separate days. So, mistake number one, not a back movement, but it does involve targeting some back muscles. The second mistake people make is they use the wrong foot stance when they're lifting conventional or sumo. And we'll start with the conventional deadlift. Now, for the conventional deadlift, your feet are going to be relatively close together, pretty much anywhere inside of shoulder width. So either they're going to be shoulder width or much closer. For me personally, I'm like somewhere in the middle, just like this. Now, the reason why foot stance is so important is because I'll see people do a conventional deadlift, and they'll have their feet out like this. Then when they go down to grab the barbell, when doing conventional, your hands have to be on the outside of your legs. Now, what happens when your hands are this wide? You're creating more of a distance that the barbell has to travel when doing the movement. In order to lift the most amount of weight on a deadlift, you want to basically use as little energy as possible so you can put as much energy into pulling the weight off the ground as you can. So if I'm actually in the right position, which is like this, and I grab down here, you'll notice that my hands are pretty much underneath my shoulders. What happens when my hands are underneath my shoulders? I'm creating a shorter distance the barbell has to travel. As soon as your arms start getting wider and wider and wider, you're not only making it the distance the bar has to travel longer because you have to get down lower to grab the barbell properly, but on top of that, you're putting so much more tension into the muscles in your arms and your shoulders, your chest, and your back in order to be able to hold this position throughout the movement. If your arms are just hanging down like this, they're pretty much like dead meat hooks that literally hold the bar as you lift up. As you start going wider and wider, now you're going to have to contract more of the muscles in your upper body just to hold the barbell in place. Now, when it comes to the sumo deadlift, number one, you're supposed to have a wide stance like this, toes pointing out, your knees track over your toes, and then for this exercise, your hands are directly under your shoulders. And what's great about this is going to make the barbell travel the least amount possible during the movement. But if you have the wrong foot stance here, for example, if you bring your feet in like this, it's almost like you're doing a toes pointed out conventional, and you're going to explode your kneecap. So if you're doing a sumo deadlift, it should feel like your toes are pretty close to the edges of the weights on the sides, because they're going to be. If you start bringing them in too close, the concern becomes more about blowing out your knees as opposed to the distance the bar has to travel with your hand position, because you can still hold that same hand position no matter where your feet are. But make sure you're keeping them wide like this. Mistake number 3 is that I see people in the gym taking too long to set up their lift. And this is people who are using wrist wraps and not using wrist wraps. For the people that don't use wrist wraps, they'll get down like this and they'll work their hands on the barbell until it feels perfect, and then they'll start doing the movement. So maybe they're not down there as long as the wrist wrap guys, but for those of you who are going to use wrist wraps, if you're sitting down in this position, wrapping your wrist, and then you wrap this one, by the time you're ready to go, you might not realize this, but you've already lost a lot of that explosive power that you need in order to lift as much weight as possible off the ground. It's this elastic energy that's stored in the muscles that you're using to get down, grip it, and then pull it up. That's why you guys hear that term, grip it and rip it. Get down, grab the weight, and pull it right up. Same thing for like a barbell bench press. You don't want to do any static stretching. You know, you guys will see people like put their hand on a pole and go like this and stretch out their chest. The proper way to warm up for a chest press is to actually do some light movements with dumbbells and do dynamic warm-ups so you don't lose that elastic energy, that explosive power that's going to be stored in your muscles. It's like an elastic, guys. If I take this elastic and I hold it like this for a super long time, chances are that when I let it go, it's not going to go back to its original form. It's going to be stretched out a bit. So it lost some of that elastic energy. It's the same thing that's happening right here. If you're taking too long to set up, and you're in this down position for too long, and then you go to lift the weight, it's going to feel like it weighs so much more because you've lost a lot of that power. So what do you do to correct this problem? Well, what you need to do is you got to teach yourself how to set up properly and then basically go down, grab the weight, and pull it up to the top position. What some people like to do is they like to put their hands over their head just like this, taking a breath, and then down, up, and they come right up with the weight. What I like to do for my reps is I'll set myself up on the barbell and I'll make sure that I'm in the right position, that I'm far enough away where I need to be, and then I'll do a couple practice reps where I'll come down and grab it and come back up to make sure it feels right. That way when I go for the actual rep I'm trying to do, I know as soon as I go down, without even looking, I'm grabbing the right part of the barbell and I'm gripping it and ripping it to the top of the movement. So when you guys are lifting, don't stay down there too long setting yourself up because it's going to take away that elastic power you need to lift the most amount of weight. Mistake number 4 is that you guys aren't flexing your back or locking out your elbows before you start the movement. Once you're in the down position, no matter whether you're doing conventional or sumo, once you got your hands on the barbell, you want to flex your back, keep your back nice and tight like this, and you want to make sure your elbows are locked. You don't want to have any looseness in your arms. And it's for a super important reason, guys. If you have a slight bend in your elbows, even the slightest bend like this, that initial pull off the ground, all this weight is going to transfer to your bicep and your bicep tendon, and that's where you guys see a lot of tendons tear. The most common injury on a deadlift is a distal bicep tendon tear for that very reason. And the time you have to really watch out for it is when you're using a switch grip. If you're doing an overhand grip like this, chances are you're really not going to get that kind of injury. But as soon as you turn one hand around like this, if you have a slight bend in that elbow, and it's more natural to get a bend like this because of the way you're sitting, if you have a slight bend in that elbow, and then you come up like that, from here to here, it's like you just threw the entire load onto that bicep at once, and then you tried to pull the weight up. So if you're doing that, pay attention and stop. Lower the weights, because it's going to feel awkward at first when you start doing this. Lower the weights on your lift. Practice getting down to the bottom position, flexing your back, and locking your elbows out like this, and then performing the lift. Always keep in mind that your arms are just meat hooks there to hold the barbell. They're not supposed to be doing any of the work. So they need to be straight and locked the entire time. The 5th mistake that people make is they're taking a deadlift, which is one fluid movement, and they're turning it into 2 movements. And I'll show you what I mean. You'll see people in the gym go to deadlift, and they'll set themselves up, they'll get nice and tight in the bottom position, and then what happens? Their hips shoot up first, and then they pull the weight up like this. And they turn the exercise into a back movement, and eventually could possibly blow out their lower back. The deadlift is supposed to be a fluid movement where you're lifting the bar and pushing through your legs and extending your hips all at the same time. Your chest stays up the entire time while you do this exercise. So the main reason why that I have seen that most people turn it into 2 movements is because, number 1, they have poor flexibility, so they have a hard time getting low enough to get themselves like under the bar to pull it up off the ground. And number 2, they have poor mind-muscle connection when it comes to activating their glutes and hamstrings. Some of you guys, when you watch my videos and you see me deadlifting, you comment that I'm hyperextending my back at the top of the movement, and I'm not. All I'm doing is I'm lifting the barbell off the ground, and when I get to here, I flex my glutes as hard as I can, and that's what pushes my hips forward. So I'm not doing this. I'm just flexing my butt and locking out my hips. So if you're having a hard time with this and your exercise is turning into 2 movements, I want you guys to start doing some deficit deadlifts. And the reason why deficit deadlifts are so good, and this helped me out a lot when I first started deadlifting, is because we're on an elevated position like this, you're going to have to force yourself to get lower in order to grab the barbell. I'm about 2 inches off the ground right now. So I have to sit 2 inches lower just to get my hands on the barbell to perform the movement. And once you're in this position, you're going to feel really tight, especially if you're tight already. So force yourself, with light weight obviously, to get down here and keep your chest up. And then what you'll quickly notice is, as you start doing your repetitions and you're doing light weight and going up and down like this, you're going to start feeling your glutes and hamstrings activate more. This is going to teach you to do this the right way. And after doing this for 4 to 6 weeks, when you go back to the regular position on the ground, it's going to be a night and day difference, and your weights are going to go up like crazy. Mistake number 6 is not lowering the weight properly. When you guys are at the top position like this, you just completed your first repetition, I don't want to see you just bending over and dropping the weight like that for a few different reasons. Number 1, this isn't a lower back exercise, and if you guys have a ton of weight in your hands and you just bend over like this to bring the weight down, what's happening as you start to lean forward? You're transferring the entire load to your lower back, and you're going to injure yourself. So it's a big no-no. The second thing I see people do, and it's probably because they have to go to a Planet Fitness, they don't have a choice, which sucks, but they lower the weight super slow. If you guys are doing like 400-pound, 500-pound deadlift, you don't want to be bringing the weight down like this and doing a negative deadlift, because on the way down is very different than on the way up. On the way down, even if you stay strict like I just was, you're still transferring a ton of the load to your lower back to hold yourself up like this. And if you're going slow, that's a long time to possibly injure yourself. So you don't want to do that either. But what you do want to do is a controlled drop, okay? So what you want to do is go down the same way you came up, but you do want to do it with some control. So I went kind of fast, but I controlled the drop, and now I'm ready for my next repetition. You don't want to just drop the weight too quick, because if you guys bounce it like this, it starts going all over the place, and it's going to screw your form up. You want to be able to do a controlled drop so you can go down and then back up. Go down, let the weight settle, and go back up, and perform your repetitions like this. So don't bend over, don't go super slow, don't go super fast. Do a controlled drop so that you're always in the right position to go into your next repetition. The 7th mistake is bouncing the weight. And this is the worst possible form of a deadlift. And the only reason why it exists today in the fitness industry is because of CrossFit. So if you're a CrossFitter and you're watching this video, you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say right now, but I want you just to keep your mouth shut and wait until I finish, okay? All right, moving on. So when you guys are deadlifting and you're bouncing the weight off the ground, you're basically skipping the bottom portion of the movement. And depending on what kind of weights you're using, you can literally come here and you can skip like 3 or 4 inches at the bottom if you slam it hard enough. And some of these videos I've seen online on CrossFit is you'll see people like purposely slamming the weight as hard as they can just so they can get it off the ground faster. And this is going to hurt you for a few different reasons. Let's talk about the lifting reason first before we talk about the injury reason. If you guys are bodybuilding or strength training, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If your goal is to get stronger with this movement and you want to increase your weight and you want to eventually increase your max pulls on your deadlift, well, when you guys do a max pull, you don't start the exercise like this. If you're going for a 500-pound deadlift, you're not going to like unrack the bar like this, stand straight up, and then go down and then bounce it to get your PR. You're going to have to pull that weight off the ground. So if you're doing these bouncing repetitions all the time and not coming to a dead stop after every single repetition, you're going to be severely hurting in the department of being able to lift a heavy load off the ground. It's just not going to work for you. So think about that. If you're trying to bodybuild or trying to strength train, if you're skipping the bottom portion of the movement, you'll never be able to increase your weight. Now, the other aspect I want to talk about is injuries. We just talked about why it's important to have your arms locked out earlier, because you can tear your bicep tendon. So if you're lifting a lot of weight and you're bringing it up, if you slam that weight on the ground, your body has no choice other than to bend at the elbows and then re-extend, because that's your body's way of absorbing the impact of the barbell hitting the ground and bouncing back up. You will not be able to keep your arms locked out. And if you guys start doing loads and loads of repetitions of slamming and pulling and slamming and pulling, eventually something's got to give. And what's probably going to give first is that bicep tendon, and what's going to happen is it's going to rip off your arm and roll up and look pretty gross for a while. So you don't want that to happen either. So CrossFitters, I'm sorry, you're setting yourself up for an injury. I know it's a competition. You want to get as many reps as possible. To me, it's not worth tearing my biceps. So make sure you guys don't bounce the weights, especially if you're going for a PR. And the last mistake people make when they deadlift is they don't wear the right shoes. I know you guys ask me all the time what shoes I'm wearing, and I'm wearing ASIC wrestling shoes. And a lot of you guys ask if I was a wrestler before, and I was. I wrestled throughout middle school and high school, but that's not the main reason why I wear wrestling shoes when I'm in the gym. These shoes, if you guys can't see, are super thin. They're the closest thing I can wear in the gym to actually still have a shoe on and be as close to being barefoot as possible. And what that means is I'm lower to the ground. And when you're doing a deadlift, guys, every centimeter counts. If you come in the gym and you're wearing like regular running shoes that have an inch thick sole at the bottom, you're already starting the movement an inch higher than me. So you have to work that much harder in order to lift the weight on the ground. And on top of that, if you got like gel soles especially, you're creating a super unstable surface for yourself to be able to lift the weight. Your feet on the ground, that's your foundation to start the exercise. And if your foundation is already wobbly and weak, it's going to make it really hard for you guys to increase your weights and feel solid when you're pulling the barbell off the floor. So if you're lifting right now, maybe you can't afford to buy new shoes, go to the gym, take off your big clunky shoes and do it barefoot. And you guys are going to notice a huge difference right away, not only your form, but how much weight you can lift. So wearing the right shoes is super important. And that's it for my tips, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I'm going to have some pissed off CrossFitter comments below, but I'll be sure to respond to you guys too. I mean, it's all about safety for me. I've almost torn my bicep tendon before from doing other things, but still, man, it's a very scary thing to happen. You'll be out of the gym for 6 to 8 months. So safety, super important. And in case you guys missed those links from the beginning, if you want to see my other dumbest mistakes, or the sumo versus conventional, or if you want to check out my app, I'll post those links down in the info section below. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys. You know, the deadlift is such a complex exercise that if you guys wanted me to make another video with more tips, I'd be more than happy to do it. It's actually one of my most favorite exercises to teach. I love seeing people's eyes kind of light up when I explain things to them, like flexing their lats and pulling the slack out of the bar before they even do their first repetition. It's like something they never even heard of before, and when they try it, the exercise gets easier, and then they're excited to do more deadlifting, which I think is just great. So the final exercise in this compilation video, and by the way, thank you for staying with me and watching to the end, really helps out with the channel. These long videos show YouTube that you guys are interested in this type of content. And if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell and that like button. All these things help with the YouTube algorithm. And the final exercise we're going to go over today for my Dumbest Mistakes series is a T-bar row. So let's jump into it. What's going on, nation, and welcome back to the Dumbest Mistakes series. If you missed my last video, 7 Dumbest Pull-Up Mistakes, I will link to it in my pinned comment below, and also as an end card once this video is over. But today, we're going to go over the 6 dumbest T-bar row mistakes sabotaging your back growth. And to be honest, guys, so many of you are not taking full advantage of the massive growth potential that this exercise has to offer because of these simple mistakes. But we're going to fix that. And this is because the T-bar row combines the compound nature of rowing with its massive capacity for overloading in a safe and effective manner. Therefore, it is crucial that you learn how to execute the movement correctly to get the most out of it without getting injured in the process. So let's get started. Mistake number 1, keeping your legs straight during the lift. As with every rowing movement, guys, I see many of you in the gym not bending your knees and oftentimes getting injured because of it. But it goes beyond just injuring yourself. If you're not bending your knees during the movement, then you don't have a solid base to hold yourself in place to lift the maximum amount of weight. It's that simple, guys. Bending your knees allows you to push your hips back so that the weight is directly underneath your center of gravity as opposed to in front of you. This is Physics 101, guys, and it's called a lever. The longer the lever, the harder it's going to be to lift the weight. And when I say harder, I don't mean you're overloading your lats and upper back more. In fact, if you have lower back pain from this exercise, this is why. Because your lower back has to work triple overtime when your legs are straight. So if you enjoy lower back pain, keep those legs straight. If not, I suggest you stop bending them. Mistake number 2, not bending over enough during the movement. Proper form with this movement calls for your upper body to be as parallel to the floor as possible, and for every extra degree of less parallel you are, you're shifting the emphasis from your lats and middle back to your upper back and traps. Now don't get me wrong, if you want to work upper back and traps, you should be more upright. But if the main reason you're doing a T-bar row is to target the lats, you need to be bent over as much as possible. The only exception to this rule would be if you're using my Cheat and Recover style of training or if you're following my Cheat and Recover program. During the cheat reps, it is okay to be a bit more upright and use some momentum to jerk the bar to the top of the movement and then try to control the negative as much as possible as you return to the parallel position. By overloading the movement with so much weight, your entire back is going to be activated regardless of the angle of your torso in relation to the floor. However, after your cheat set, you will still have to perform 8 recover reps with proper form to fully activate those areas that you were neglecting during your cheat set. Mistake number 3, not taking advantage of multiple attachments and grips. Guys, the back is a fairly massive muscle group with many different muscles, insertion points, and functions. Therefore, it makes sense to target it from different angles from time to time and not stick to the same old rowing variation. The T-bar row is truly a versatile exercise, so treat it as such. You can use the normal V handle or you can use the straight bar handle. From there, you can perform an overhand or underhand grip row, or you can even avoid the use of any attachments and grip the bar with your hands directly. This will place uneven stress on your back, which is great for stabilization and further muscle damage. But if you do that, just be sure to alternate your grip with every set to always maintain balance. Mistake number 4, using 45-pound plates instead of 25s. Now, why is this a mistake? Well, it's not exactly a mistake, guys, but you can certainly upgrade the exercise and your muscle building potential if you use 25-pound plates instead of 45s. The 25s are much smaller in diameter, so they allow for a bit more range of motion. It's not huge extra range of motion, but it's enough to make a difference. So what I'm saying is that the 45s will hit your stomach area faster than the 25s will, which allow the bar to move a greater difference. And remember, more range of motion means more time under tension, which means more muscle damage and more strength gains and more muscle gains. But if you're a really strong dude who rows 5 to 6 40-pound plates when T-bar rowing, obviously it doesn't make sense to swap those for 10 or 12 25s. However, I know that most of you guys are in the 2 to 4 plate range, which means you'll greatly benefit if you switch to 25s instead. Mistake number 5, maintaining the wrong posture while doing the lift. One of the worst things you can do during this movement is place too much tension in your neck and upper spine. When performing any rowing exercise, you want to keep your neck and spine as neutral as possible to avoid any kind of excess tension, which can cause a strain in the muscles in the area, or even worse, a tension headache. And those are painful, guys. This means that if your upper body is parallel to the floor, then your face should be as well. The biggest reason most gym goers keep their head up during this movement is because they want to look at themselves in the mirror. Well, don't do that anymore. The gains don't come until after the workout is over, so there's no need to admire yourself during the repetitions. And now for the final and most important mistake. But before we talk about it, if you've been enjoying the video, guys, show some love and smash that like button. And hey, be first when a new video comes out and turn on video notifications. Your biceps will get bigger as soon as you do that. Maybe not, but we'll see. Click the bell and find out. So mistake number 6, guys, pulling with your biceps instead of your back. If you ever feel like you're getting more of an arm workout than a back activation when doing a row, well, this is due to a few reasons. Reason number 1 is that you're probably not retracting your scapula at the top of the movement. In order to fully engage your back during every repetition, your scapula should be fully retracted at the top of the movement and fully stretched at the bottom. In fact, a 1-second hold at the top of the movement is optimal to ensure you're squeezing the muscles in your back as hard as you can, especially if you need help improving your mind-muscle connection. The second reason is that you might be gripping the weight so hard that you instinctively activate more biceps and forearms than back. But what you need to do, guys, is envision pulling the weight with your back, and you can achieve this by imagining your hands as hooks and pulling with your elbows. This way, the weight is just passing through the biceps, but not necessarily being lifted by them. Or you can use wrist straps. Now, guys, I know that compound movements like this take time to master, but as long as you're aware of what not to do, you will see significant muscle gains in no time. Oh, and one last thing. Once you are able to lift some heavy weight, make sure you toss on a weight belt to help stabilize your core. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button. And as always, stay classy, nation. See you guys later. You know, when it comes to exercises like a T-bar row or a barbell bent over row, which we also covered in this compilation, a little bit of momentum is okay. In fact, I encourage it because I know that if you're going down on every rep and you're really feeling the stretch in your lats, you're gonna probably push through your legs a little bit, especially as you start to fatigue, to bring that weight all the way up. But remember, you always get the most muscle damage for regrowth in the negative. You're also always 40% stronger in the negative. So if you guys can bring the weight to your chest and control the descent and then feel your lat stretch on the bottom of every single repetition, you're gonna get a lot more benefit out of those 2 exercises. So hope you guys enjoyed this compilation video. I'm going to continue to do more compilations because, as you guys know, I have over 1,500 videos on YouTube. There's a lot of great content out there, and smashing them all together in these types of videos, I think is going to help y'all reach your goals faster because you won't have to spend as much time searching on YouTube. Hope y'all have a wonderful day, and as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys.